name of the Father, and the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. Today, for the second week, we read the parable of the sower and the seed. And if our church calendar has 48 weeks, I would say that the year have 52 Sundays. But you have one Sunday for Palm Sunday, one Sunday for Resurrection, one Sunday for Pentecost. So we end up with 48 Sundays or 49 Sundays. Out of those Sundays, we read the parable of the sower and the seed twice, 2 times, last week and this week. So it's very important parable, and the church wants us to really focus on it and get as much as we can out of it. Last week, if you remember, I spoke of boundaries, how everything has to have boundaries. When it gets out of boundaries, everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong. Today I want to speak of 3 things. I want to speak of, after we spoke of boundaries, we speak of balance, purity, and priority. Balance, purity of intention, and priority. For a good ground, a field, the good land, to be producing the good fruit, you have to have the 3. After boundaries, of course, you're going to put boundaries for it, that nothing comes into this land that doesn't belong to it. But it has a priority. The land has a priority. This land is cultivating something, or we're going to cultivate, to use it to cultivate wheat, then it's going to be for wheat. Or it's going to be for vegetables, then it's going to be for vegetables. And each one of those plants have to have its own nutrients, its own fertilizer. Not everything works for everything. So we need to have the purity of the land first. It has to be very clean. And also it has to have the special nutrients that you're thinking about to cultivate the plant you want. And it also have to have, we have to have a balance. So you put too much of a fertilizer, what happens? You burn the plant. Those who work in the fields, you know that. Don't put too much. There's a special amount of fertilizer you have to put. There's a balance. Too much of one thing is going to hurt. Too little of one thing is going to hurt too. I want to start with this story. It's a little story that from the desert tradition, from the desert fathers. They say it was St. Macarius. One day, he was fought with gluttony. Saints can be fought with that. I mean, that doesn't mean that they are saints. They're not humans. They are humans. And he wanted God to give him an answer, how to fight this, how to think about it. I want to eat a lot. I don't want to stop eating. So he went out and asked God, give me an answer. Give me something to help me. So he found this little boy with a donkey. In those times, you don't get a pickup. There was no pickups. You get a donkey, and this is how you get your money. You use your donkey to transport goods. Someone wants to move. You ask this boy, can I use your donkey to put my goods on it, move from this place to another place? And he would say, okay, I will charge you that much. And this is business. So he found this boy with the donkey, and he asked him, can I ask you a question? And he said, go ahead, monk, ask me. He said, I've eaten lunch, and I'm still hungry. He said, eat again. He said, I'm going to tell you the truth. I ate it 2 times. I ate lunch twice. But I still feel like I want to eat again. He said, that's not a brainer. Go ahead and eat the 3rd time. He said, I actually ate 3 times. And he looked at him and he said, monk, you're not a human. You're a donkey, because my donkey doesn't stop eating. Apparently to the boy, he has to spend on the food of the donkey. So even donkeys actually have a limit of eating, but they eat definitely much more than we eat. So to the boy, he's spending a lot of money on the donkey. But that's what he said. So it says, the story says St. Macarius went back to his cell benefiting. He was enlightened. He said, guess what? If I have that desire, I have to call myself a donkey. Too much food. But sometimes too little food too. So in our life, like the field, to be really productive, to be doing God's work, we have to have a balance. We definitely have to have a balance. Most of us right now, in these days, most of us, I'm not saying everybody, are running or very on little sleep, or less sleep that we need, more awakening, more wakeful time, and more worries than what we usually can handle. For whatever reasons. Maybe we need to cover up our bills for the month to make ends meet. So we work double works, or we have worry about something. And we end up actually being tired all the time. And by the way, if you're tired, your prayer quality will go down. And this is what we live to do. If you're not living to communicate with God, you're not living. If you're not living to communicate with the one who created you and to get from Him all the grace you need for your days, you're not living. And if you're so tired that you cannot really pray or come to church and actually focus on what you're doing, you're not living. I'm not going to say this only about prayer. Prayer is a priority, that's what we say. That's the first fruit. But in everything else, kids who stay up late to go on social media, or they stay up late to play games or watch videos or whatever, they perform very poorly in their school. If they perform well, it's going to be double the task, but they're not enjoying anything. I can promise you that. They talk about, in medicine used to tell us about sleep debt. And I want to give you this practical tip. Sleep debt. When you don't sleep one day, you have a debt to pay to your sleep. They call it sleep debt. How do you calculate that? When I learned it in medicine, they said, and you might see, look up sleep debt on the internet, you might see different ways of calculating it. They say you wake up 16 hours, right? 16 hours. And you sleep 8 hours. People usually are between 7 and 9 hours a day of sleep. So, if you don't have a balance, and one day, for some reason, you overdone it waking, we go up to 18 hours of waking, means you took 2 hours of your sleep, you added 2 hours from the sleep to the wakeful time, then you lost both. You lost your sleep, that's 2, and you have overdone your wakefulness. So, classically, to calculate it, you actually have to add the 2 hours of sleep to the next day, and you have to add 1 hour for waking up more. Because you took from your dire need battery, though, you know how the cell phone has a little battery inside? You took from that battery, you have to charge it too. So, you end up actually needing 3 hours for each 2 hours you took from your sleep. The ratio is 2 to 1, 16 to 8, 2 to 1. So you got 1 hour of sleep for each hour you wake up. You take 2 hours more, you need to add those 2 hours and 1 hour more for that what you took from your sleep. So what happens when we don't sleep well? We don't taste anything. Your life quality is poor quality. You're not enjoying anything. You're dragging through the day. You just want to make it to the bed at the end of the day. What kind of life is that? This is what God intended for us? No. I guess only for mothers in the first 3, mothers and fathers, the first 3 months of a baby, newly born, you're allowed to have that sleep deprivation. But after that, there's no worthy reason for us to have lack of balance in our life. Lack of balance of our life. This is actually crazy. Add this, apply it to food. We all in this culture are warned about overfeeding. All are warned about it. You get interested in eating to cover up for depression or anxiety. Some people go to the refrigerator, they say you go to the fridge as your counselor. The fridge becomes your pacifier. So this is a sign of sickness. When you are tired, listen to me. When you are tired, your your prayer quality goes down, but not only that, your defenses go down. Actually, the people who study sleep and actually eating also, they tell you, you need certain amounts of sleep, vitamins, minerals, protein, to be able to fight sicknesses. This is proven. No more it's a guess. That's true. You don't sleep well, your immunity goes down. And by the way, just another tip for you, if you want to get over cold quickly, take one of those NyQuils and you will sleep very well. You wake up, the cold is gone. When we are sleeping well, our body defends itself much better. So, they say, the counselors say that. They said, when you develop an addiction and you're trying to get over it, or you're fought with a temptation to do something wrong, watch out those 5 states. 5. When you are hungry, when you are angry, anxious, tired, or lonely. They call it HALT. That's how they say it. HAALT. Hungry, angry, anxious, lonely, and tired. In those states, you are most liable to fall into temptation. Jesus had to go through that to be tested to the bone, to actually test it to the last spot of his existence in the fasting. But we don't need to be in that situation. To fight temptation to go back to smoking, drinking, addiction to pornography, to fight temptation to do these things, you have to make sure that your life is balanced. You don't overdo it in any way. Don't oversleep and don't undersleep. What happens when we oversleep? I'll tell you what, when we wake up, we all have that experience. What do? You are actually tired, you're headachy, you're miserable, you don't want to do anything. You want to stay in bed. It's a little dark. Oversleeping is not a good thing at all. We talk about undersleeping, yes, and oversleeping too. How about undereating and undernourishing your body and overnourishing your body? Overnourishing the body gets you fat, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sometimes diabetes. Undereating, you get low vitamins. And underexposure to the sun is the same thing. If you don't get exposed to the sun, you get low vitamin D. You lose your teeth and your bones get thin. And you get broken easily. So we have to have that balance in everything. There's another story from the desert. And here it's calling for wisdom. A monk who is in his cell, and it's written for us to learn. And he's following his routine, the balance that he had done. By the way, if anyone goes to the monastery and he's going to be a novice, guess what would be the first thing to learn? To set a balance, to set a balanced life. A person might go to the monastery and think, they're going to teach me how to pray. No, they teach him a routine that his body will be actually completely calm, not causing him trouble. It's like a donkey. You teach the donkey how to go from the house to the work and come back. That's how you start with the donkey, with anything. You start with the basic. In kindergarten, in kids, our human children, we actually teach them to come to the school. The first month, we teach them a routine so that no difficulty. They know exactly what will happen. No surprises. Everything is expected in its time. So what they do in the monastery, they teach them a routine. You go there, you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you wash your face, you go right to the church to attend the tasbihah, and then after praises, you attend the liturgy, you go from there back to your cell to sleep a little bit, maybe take a nap, and then go to your work, whatever assigned to you in the monastery, and then you wake up and you finish that at 4 p.m. or 3 p.m., take the dinner, and then you do your vespers, and then it goes on like that every day. A balanced life. If one thing is overdone, this balance, what will happen to it? Will be broken. And then what? A person will suffer. One day, the story says, a monk was in his cell praying his night prayer. And then an idea, a very strong idea, and he recognized it as a spirit, came to him and said, what about you spending more time in prayer tonight? Just go a little bit further in prayer. Spend maybe an hour or two. And what did the monk say? That's wisdom. He said, go away from me, Satan. You're not interested in me praying. You're interested in me getting out of balance. And that's why I said sometimes you have to prepare. If you're going to the monastery, your lifestyle is different. You're going to the monastery for 1 week and you want to join the monks and the nuns in their prayers. You have to prepare for it. And this is where we have to have wisdom. And if you don't have wisdom, find somebody to guide you. Is when you go and change your balance in the monastery, you lose your balance. You get a little bit tired and then you lose your routine that you're in every day. To benefit from the monastery, you have to prepare so that you don't lose the balance. You change it gradually. So, one another story from the monasteries, that's actually they have the wisdom of this. That the first step in spiritual life is to have a balance. So they said Moses, the strong, say Moses, the Ethiopian, he was a holy saint and a martyr. But he was, at the beginning of his life, he was a gangster, a murderer, a thief. He was a strong man, I would say. He was very tall, very fearsome. And when he went to the monastery, he was in the habit of eating a whole little lamb every day. Saint Moses used to eat a whole little lamb, uzi, every day. He would eat it in pieces, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and supper, and maybe second dinner and second supper. Before he goes to bed, he would finish the lamb. So he goes to the monastery and he asks, how can I be, I wanna dedicate my life to God, but I have a problem. I'm addicted to meat. And they know that his life is out of balance. There's no balance. He's overdoing it, for sure. So the wisdom said, the wisdom of Father Isidorus, his guide, said that, give me a piece of wood, a trunk. You got him a trunk of a tree, and it's a piece of wood. He said, just make sure that this piece of wood is equal in weight to the meat you eat. And he weighed the piece of wood, and it was exactly the same weight as the amount of meat he eats on average. And then St. Isidorus took his chalk, a piece of chalk, and he made lines on the piece of wood like this. And he said, your job to this coming month, that's the only job you're going to have, is to chop that piece of wood with the line. Every day you chop that piece of wood. And we made them very small. So what happened after a month? And he said, when you chop it, weigh the meat against it. So if you chop a piece, eat equal amount of meat that balances this piece of wood. And he did this every day, and every day he would chop a piece. He did what people would do in the recovery, addiction recovery places. This is gradual withdrawal. He gradually withdrew him from what is the point? Wisely to keep the balance. Not to shake very much the body and the psyche out of their balance, out of their peace. Gradually, until he was actually at the end of it, he became vegan, believe it or not. So, this means, first of all, balance is needed in our life. To be really good, wise stewards, you have to have balance in your life. Don't overdo things. And I say this because some of us waste up their sleep time in bed looking at our social media, whether it is adults' Facebook or teenagers' Instagram. Whatever it is, you're sitting there wasting precious sleep time that you're not going to be able to recover until you sleep more next day. And this would actually reflect on everything you do otherwise. So balance says, I have enough amount of sleep, enough amount of food, I know exactly what I'm eating. I don't overdo entertainment, which happens a lot. For the sake of entertainment is supposed to refresh my soul, not to become a goal. That's when we're going to talk about the purity of intention. You know exactly what you're doing. And this again calls for the first cardinal virtue, which is wisdom. Some people say, Abuna, you're talking nonsense because I have a lot of debts and I have a lot of money to pay back and I need to work a lot and I don't have enough time to sleep. I say, you have not practiced wisdom. Whatever got you there, unless it is something, out of your control, you should have managed your life better. But look to the future and say, I will never do this again. I will not allow anything to take from my sleep or from my food or from my peace or from my time with God, which is the most important. Now we talk about priority. Priority. The church teaches us that all the material activities should be subordinated to the spiritual. Again, all material activity should be subordinated to the spiritual. What do I mean by subordinated? The priority should be first, my relationship with God. That's the church teaching. And that's the Bible teaching. What does Jesus say? Say, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and the rest will be given to you. You don't have to worry about it. Actually, it would come to you. That's how Jesus promised. To be anxious about things and to be in our mind double-minded. I want God, but I want the world. I want God and I want money. I want God, but I want to be rich. I want God and I want to be famous. I want God and I want to be successful. But isn't with God everything? Isn't He the one who created everything? And He's not going to leave you to be a failure or a loser, like people, call people here. You're not going to be a loser with Him. And if you're a loser with God, that's much better than being a winner with Satan. Because you think Satan is going to give anything? He promises a lot. So, purity of intention. It means that we have a focus. I don't really mix things together. I'm going to go to bed and watch TV. Is that pure? Absolutely not. I'm going to have my bedroom with TV in it. That's a big, big, big mistake. Don't have TVs in your bedrooms. This is a big mistake. That's dual intentions. You're going there to rest, not watching something to get you excited and get your brain working. And then what happens in the morning? You feel like you have not slept at all. It's a trick, and it's a devilish trick, to get cell phones, TVs, internet into your bedroom and the bedroom of your kids. Make sure, that's important, that your kids are sleeping in a certain time, waking up in a certain time every day. Don't train them to be chaotic, out of order, and has no balance in their life. Don't do that. They're gonna say to themselves, my parents never showed me the way. And you'll be blamed. You'll be blamed for it later. The purity of intention says I do things for one reason, and I don't have dual reasons. That's a single-minded, single heart. You do things for one priority. And if something comes out of it as a side bonus, that's fine. I'm not going to do things for two things. This is actually what makes us fail in all things. One of the craziest ideas, listen, of this age is multitasking. The craziest ideas. It's a huge failure of humans. To multitask is to turn yourself into a thing, another human being. Nothing makes sense, nothing have a taste. You do this and this and this. And all what you're doing actually, let me just tell you this, you're doing one thing at a time, but you're doing them very sloppily. Sloppily. You just have a touch here, a touch here, a touch here, like a processor. You know the computer processor? You think you can upload many files, right? But what's the fact? You're actually uploading one file at a time, but the process is going crazy from one file to another. Just do a little bit here, do a little here. I give you the clue, is when you upload too many files, what happens? Everything slows down until the point where it actually crashes. That is not real. That's not true. Same thing for us. Our processor here cannot handle except one thing at a time. This multitasking is a lie. It's a lie. So we have to have that purity of intention, that you actually dedicate the time. Say, and that's what we talked about boundaries last time. You dedicate time for God. You dedicate time for sleep. And you insist on it. I like it when someone says, Abuna, I have to go. It's my time to go to bed. I love it. I get excited. My time to go to bed. My time to pray. Last time I told you about this. This is dedication. This is priority. This is purity of intention. For purity of intention also, we should think about this. You cannot serve and work at the same time. And I say this to many people. In Boston, used to be business people. And sometimes a businessman, and I see it, but they think they can trick themselves and me with them, say, there's a new family coming from Egypt. They have no work. I'm going to do a service and have them work in my store. But deep down, after a while, you discover that they are abusing them. They're giving them very little money and overworking them. And they really don't care about serving them. All what they cared about, they got a cheap labor. It's awful. That's dual intention. They trick themselves thinking, I'm going to do this person a service, but at the same time they think, I can get some benefit out of that. Is that a service? Don't go serving when you have a benefit behind it. That's dual intention. This is not bringing fruit to God. This is bringing fruit to yourself, which will be thorns and thistles. You're going to hurt people. It ends up always by fighting and kicking someone from the work, or the person gets angry and leave, and they feel abused once they get a chance. Sometimes most people, when they are coming here, they don't know anything. They surrender to the abuse. And then after a while, what happens? They get tired of it. And they see what's going on around them. It's horrible. That purity of intention is extremely important. I want to end with the story of Pope Kyrillos. When he was Father Mina in the Baramos Monastery, we are reading the book, A Silent Patriarch. It's it's a classic actually, if you want to have a book to read in your free time. And in this book, Abuna Daniel Fanus talks about his struggle. He struggled to get out of the world, to go to the monastery. He wants to be in solitude. I want to just check this point with you. He wanted to go to solitude, to be a hermit. He went to the monastery. He was still young, in his 20s, and he asked the monks, I want to go and live in that cave, which is like 5 kilometers, maybe 2.5 miles away from the monastery. And he said, they told him, no, you're going to go crazy. Nobody lives alone unless they are called by God. He said, I feel the calling, and I will submit your decision. Eventually, they give him permission to go. And he's writing there. He said he was guided by St. Isaac the Syrian. He said the 3 conditions for a hermit. The 3 conditions to be ascetic, to be a hermit, or a recluse. What is it? Or they call him the recluse or the hermit by themselves. He said one is blameless intention. Anyone goes to be a recluse, to get away from people. Listen, to get away from people, because that's what my students say in the class. He wanted to be a hermit because he hated to be with people. This is absolute wrong. You cannot think this way. To be away from people, you're going to fail miserably. And again, they actually fail. They can go crazy. But what is it? He said to the blameless intention is not to think about being a bishop, or not to be a medical worker, or to be seeing virgins, or, that's not the case. What is it? He said, the reason for us to go to be a hermit is the stillness of heart. The stillness of heart. Meaning, I want my heart to be like a lake with no ripples. So that I actually can offer myself to God. When I offer myself to God and the divine union happen, I'm united with Him in this life, I am going to be divinely loving. I'm going to go back and find myself loving people more than human capacity can. Because I've connected with God, and God is love. Guess what? I'll truly love people. Until that moment, I can't call myself loving humans. So why is he going there? Not to run away from people, but to acquire the true divine love for people. And this is exactly it. And they tell you that the saintitude of Saint Kyrillos, Pope Kyrillos, came from that he experienced something. He said, I've seen the light. He said it in one of his letters. So I want us to understand this, that you have to know what you're going to do with what you're doing in life. And you have to know where is the place of your sleep, where is the place of your food, where is how much sleep I need, how much food I need, how much prayer I need. And this is what we live by. Again, balance. Don't let anything take over. Purity of intention and priority. Those three things we learn from the good ground. Let me say this in Arabic. النهارده هنقرا المثل بتاع الزارع مثل الزارع وانواع التربه، وهنتكلم النهارده على التربه الجيده. والمثل ده بيتقرا مرتين في السنه كلها 49 اسبوع. فمعنى ان احنا بنقرا مرتين حاجه مهمه جدا. المثل بيقول ان الارض الجيده لا فيها صخر ولا فيها شوك وفيها سماد كفايه، وهيتزرع فيها حاجه معينه من الزرع. باي ذا واي اليهود ممنوع عليهم يزرعوا حاجتين مع بعض. قال لك لا تزرع حقلك حنطه وشعير، ما تزرعش حاجتين مع بعض. عشان يقول ايه الكلام التعليم بتاع اليهود ايه؟ ان ما يبقاش عندك نيه ثنائيه، ما يبقاش تبقى نيه نقيه، نيه نقيه. فالحقل بنعمل ايه لما يكون الحقل فيه قمح غير لما يكون خضار غير لما يكون فاكهه؟ كل حاجه لها سمادها وليها اوانها، كل حاجه ليها ترتيبها. فالحاجه دي لو زادت السماد بتاعها تحرقها، ولو قل تبقى ضعيفه ما تطلعش حاجه. فاحنا كمان ايضا كناس كتربه ربنا بيسمينا زي التربه الكويسه بتوع ربنا، عندنا اتزان في امور حياتنا. معظم الناس النهارده يعانوا من نقص النوم. ما بيناموش كفايه، اما عشان عندهم مشاكل وهموم، عندهم ديون لازم يدفعوها وبيشتغلوا شغلانتين، ويسهر بالليل يقعد يفكر وقلقان هيعمل ايه في نهايه الشهر ومش جاي له نوم كويس، او لانه عنده حاجه بيتسلى بيها وخدت حياته. زي ما احنا عارفين وقت تبقى قاعد في الاوضه بتاعت النوم ومعاك التليفون من الزهق، قاعد تعمل فيسبوك، مش عارف العيال الصغيرين انستجرام، الكلام ده. بعدين تقعد تسهر لغايه الساعه 2 بالليل 3 بالليل، وبعدين تصحى الصبح شكلك مضروب علقه، وتروح الشغل وبتجرجر في نفسك ولا في نفسك لغايه اخر اليوم. طب ايه اللي عمل فينا كده؟ ما حدش، احنا بس فقدنا الاتزان اتفقد. بدل ما التسليه تاخد ده حجم ده، خدت حياتي كلها. ما بقاش عندي وقت ان انا او طاقه نعمل حاجه صح. يقولوا كده عن ابو مقار ان هو مره طلع لقى ولد حمار، ساله بيقول له انا عايز اسالك سؤال. قال له قول. قال له انا اكلت وعايز اكل تاني. قال له كل تاني. قال له اكلت مرتين ولسه عايز اكل تالت. قال له كل تالت. قال له اكلت 3 مرات. فالراجل الحمار رد عليه وقال له انت حمار يا راهب وليس انسان. الحمار بتاعي ما بيبطلش اكل. فمضى ابو مقار منتفعا، فرح بالكلمه. قال لك لو انا مش هبطل اكل، يبقى ايه الفرق بيني وبين الحمار اللي يحط له المعلف ممكن يخلص المعلف كل يوم ويجيب له تاني، مش مشاكل. فاحنا عندنا مشكله لما يبقاش في بالانس في حياتنا، ما يبقاش في اتزان في الحياه. بيحصل حاجه تاخد مكان الحاجه التانيه. واحده من الحاجات المهمه جدا النوم. انتبهوا للنقطه دي. النوم من الامور الخطيره جدا، ان كل ما الطب يكتشف ان النوم داخل في حاجات كتيره جدا، منها المناعه. لما الانسان ما ينامش كويس مناعته تضعف. اقول لكم سر، اذا جالك برد خد كده حلو جرعه محترمه من نايكويل ونام، هتصحى زي الفل. حد جربها؟ انا بجربها طول الوقت. بس نام كويس، يعني خد اللي هي الجرعه الكامله، ما تقطرهاش. نام تصحى زي الفل. ليه؟ المناعه بتاعتك حصل لها وانت نايم رجعت تاني. الضغط بتاع العيا والصحيان والمسؤوليات اللي عليك بيخلي المناعه تضعف. فاحنا لما بنريح الجسم الوقت المظبوط بتاعه بناخد المناعه، وبناخد اهم حاجه كمان قدرتنا، دي اهم حاجه، على الصلاه. لما تيجي تلاقي نفسك مش عارف تصلي، اسال نفسك اول سؤال: يا ترى انا تعبان؟ كان راجل مدرس للصلاة، راجل حلو خالص، وكان اتوفى اتنيح من بتاع 10 سنين. بيقول ايه؟ لما تيجي تعمل تأمل، لما تيجي تقعد كده في الكنيسة وتسمع الإنجيل وقاعد لقيت نفسك نمت، ايه اللي حصل؟ جسمك بيقول لك ايه؟ ان انت تعبان، زي الابن الضال وقال لك لما رجع لنفسه قال انا جعان. الله، وانت ما كنتش عارف انك جعان؟ مشغول، عنده حاجات مهمة بيعملها، مش فاضي لنفسه، مش فاضي. مش ده اللي ربنا قاله؟ قال ان الجسد افضل من الطعام، الحياة افضل من الطعام والجسد افضل من اللباس. يعني ربنا ادانا الجسد، الاكل للجسد مش الجسد للاكل. عارفين ان في واحد يعيش عشان ياكل، وواحد تاني بياكل عشان يعيش. فالاكل ده وسيله ان الجسد يبقى كويس. لو انا هستعمل الاكل ان يسليني ويعوض مثلا الاكتئاب ولا الانكزايتي بتاعتي، طب ما انا هعي الجسد، هيجي لي كوليسترول وضغط وسكر والدنيا هتتخرب معايا. ولو انا ما اكلتش كفايه لان عندي حاجات تانية. في ناس كده تنسى نفسها، يقعد يشتغل، الناس اللي تقعد على البورصه بيراقب بقى الارقام بتطلع وتنزل. كان زمان، دلوقتي الناس كلها فاقت من الوهم ده، تطلع وتنزل ويقعد، ده ما يجيلوش نفس، لانه عنده ادرينالين شغال طول الوقت. هم ما يتلم بعيد عنكم، ولا اي شيء من الاشياء دي اللي يخلي الواحد يتاخد كده ويلاقي نفسه عبد. فالبالانس مهم، اللي هو الوزن، ان نوزن كل حاجه، كل حاجه لها مكانها. احب جدا الناس اللي تقول لي يا ابونا انا مضطر امشي دلوقتي عشان ميعاد نومي جه، او اضطر امشي دلوقتي عشان عايز اصلي وقت الصلاه بتاعي جه، او عايز امشي دلوقتي لان لازم ناكل مع بعض كاسره. حلو، ده كلام جميل، حلو جدا ان في بالانس، لكل شيء مكان ولكل شيء وقت، وما بنضغطش حاجه على حاجه. دي مهمه جدا، انتبهوا عشان ده خطير جدا. لما نروح الدير، انا من الناس اللي ابتديت اشوف كده، لو احنا بنفكر شويه بحكمه يعني، ان لما بنروح الدير نقعد مع الرهبان البالانس بتاعنا بيتقلب. ليه؟ لان حياتهم غير حياتنا. هو بيصحى الساعه 4 الصبح، احنا معظمنا بيصحى الساعه كام؟ 7 6. ففي ساعتين لما بيصحى الواحد يروح التسبيحه بيبقى بيفتح عينيه بالعافيه. مش متهيألي ان ده اظبط حاجه. لازم احضر نفسي اروح الدير، احضر نفسي عشان ما اكسرش البالانس بتاعي، ولا اتعب الرهبان معايا انا اكسر البالانس بتاعهم. ليه؟ الحاجه الثانيه بعد كده هي النقاوه. نقاوه الايه؟ نقاوه النيه. يعني يقولوا كده في القصه بتاعت البابا كرولوس، كان يحب ماري اسحاق وقال له في 3 شروط للوحده عشان تبقى في مغاره، ليك 3 شروط ماري اسحاق يقولها: نقاوه النيه، الحفاظ على صلوات الاجبيه، والثالثه يبقى لك مرشد. 3 حاجات. نقاوه النيه يعني ايه؟ قال لك ما تروحش الوحده وانت طمعان يبقى لك رتبه كهنوتيه، تبقى اسقف ولا تبقى بطرك ولا حاجه. ما تروحش الوحده. او طمعان ان تتعلم الكتاب المقدس عشان تعلم الناس، او امال ايه الهدف بتاعك؟ قال لك لما تروح الوحده، قال لك هي سكون القلب. خلي بالكم احنا في الحياه بتاعتنا القلب بيحصل له ايه؟ يمين شمال فوق تحت، يمين شمال فوق تحت. شويه ابقى عندي قلق، شويه يبقى عندي غضب، شويه يبقى عندي خوف، شويه يبقى عندي سلام، شويه يبقى عندي حب، شويه يبقى عندي كره. وكل يومنا عباره عن كده، رايح جاي رايح جاي. طب هتروح الوحده ليه؟ قال لك عشان يبقى عندي سلام القلب. ليه؟ قال لك لما قلبي يسكن خالص هديه لمين؟ هديه لربنا، ربنا يطبع صورته عليه بسهوله، ما يبقاش فيه مشاكل، مش بنساه. وبعد ما ربنا يطبع صورته عليه، انتبهوا عشان دي نقطه خطيره جدا، اقدر احب الناس زي ما ربنا ايه؟ حبهم. هي دي النقطه. يعني انت مش طالع تهرب من الناس. ناس كتير يفكر كده، قال لك رايح الوحده زهق من الناس. ابدا ابدا، اوعوا تفتكروا هذا الامر صحيح. دي غلطه كبيره جدا بنفكر فيها. اللي بيروح يتوحد او يترهبن وطالع كاره الناس مش هينجح ولا هيشوف قداسه في حياته. اللي طالع يكره الناس ومش عايز يقعد معاهم مش هينجح. امال طالع ليه؟ عشان يصفي قلبه وربنا يتعامل معاه ويكرس قلبه كله لربنا، فقوم يمتلي بالمحبه. اذا رجع زي البابا كرولوس يبقى ايه؟ يبقى قديس، يحب الناس كلها، محبه غير مشروطه. دي نقطه مهمه. فاحنا خلي عندنا نقاوه القلب، والحاجه دي مهمه قوي، ان الصلاه وعلاقتنا بربنا اهم حاجه في حياتنا. واحد قالها بتاع الصلاه ده، قال كده، قال اذا السباك جالك البيت وهو سباك مسيحي بيعرف ربنا، اتمنى يكون الهدف بتاعه انه يصلح لك الحنفيه اللي بتنقط او السيفون اللي بينقط، انه يديك فرصه تصلي احسن. ليه؟ بيقول اذا وفرت للشخصيه للبيت ده نوع من السلام، ما عندهمش قلق على حاجه، قلبهم هيبقى فاضي يعمل ايه؟ يصلي. That's it. اذا جات فلوس عشان اجيب اكل ومش عايل هم ان العيال يبقوا ميتين من الجوع، مش قلقان، هقدر ايه؟ اصلي. لكن لو عندي قلق وهم وامور حياتي كلها متلخبطه، هصلي ازاي؟ نضحك على نفسينا؟ وكتير ناس بتسال مش عارفين نصلي يا ابونا. اقول لك لان لا في حياتك بالانس غالبا، ولا في ايه؟ نقاء للنيه. نيه مش نقيه، مش عايز دي، مش عايزها انت، وبالتالي مش شايف حاجه ازاي ترتب امورك عشان تعمل كده. واللي يصلي ربنا كل حاجه تانية بياخدها. مش ده اللي قاله ربنا؟ اطلبوا اولا ملكوت الله وبره هذه كلها تعطى لكم. الثالثه هي الترتيب الاولويات زي ما قلنا، ودي قلتها في النص، لما نحط نمره واحد الحاجات الروحيه وبعدين الحاجات الماديه. الماديات تخدم الايه؟ الروحيات. اوعى تعكسها، اوعى تخلي الروحيات تخدم الماديات. يعني اروح اصلي اطلب عايز فلوس اكتر، عايز نجاح اكتر. طب ما ربنا قال لك هديها لكم، ما تشغلش بالك. خلي ان انت يبقى لك علاقه بربنا، ان انت عايز ربنا يبقى قريب منك وعايز تتحد بيه، عايز تبقى مليان بالروح القدس دايما، عايز تعيش حياه النقاوه والبر، عايز ما تخطيش. اخر حاجه هقولها هي الحته بتاعه الناس الكونسلرز اللي بتوع النفسيه. يقول لك كده: امتى الانسان في اضعف حالاته؟ اذا واحد كان عنده مشكله، نقول ان هو كان مدمن للكحول، مدمن للمخدرات، مدمن للسجاير، وهيرجع تاني، يرجع امتى؟ قالوا فيه 5 حاجات. الاكرونيم بتاعهم هولت، HAALT. ايه ال5 حاجات دول؟ جعان، قال لك وقت الجوع البني ادم في ساعه لما تجوع البطون يقول لك ايه؟ هو مظبوط، ده مثل مظبوط 100%. العقل مش مركز. تاني قال لك القلق. القلق، في القلق الواحد ممكن يعمل اي حاجه عشان يخلص من الحاجه اللي قلقان منها، فالعقل بيروح برضه. الغضب، وقت الغضب الواحد ما بيبقاش شايف ايه قدامه، بيلوش. واللي بعد كده الوحده، لما الانسان بيبقى وحيد خالص بيبقى نقطه ضعف، والانسان ما بيقدرش يتحكم في نفسه. واخر واحده التعب، ودي اكتر واحده موجوده. لما الانسان يبقى تعبان الخطيه تغلبه بسهوله جدا، واللي كان عنده يرجع له تاني. بيسموها دي ايه؟ هولت. يعني الحاجات اللي لازم نقف قبل ما نوصل ليها. انسان حكيم ما يدخلش نفسه هناك، الا لو زي ما ربنا يسوع المسيح راح الجبل وهيتجرب. ده راح يتجرب اصلا، راح يتجرب، هيروح يجوع ويبقى وحده ويتعب. موضوع تاني. لإلهنا كل المجد الآب والابن والروح القدس الآن وكل أوان.